Hey, how's it going, Cloud Scholars? I hope your day is going well and I found you in a good mood. My name is Kieran Tross and I have a What Is video, and today we're going to just talk about the topic of Azure Virtual Network Pairing, what it is. As always, I like to go and start off with the definition, going straight to Microsoft. So basically what we have here is virtual network pairing enables you to seamlessly connect two or more virtual networks in Azure. The virtual networks appear as one for connectivity purposes. The traffic between virtual machines in paired virtual networks use the Microsoft backbone infrastructure. Like traffic between virtual machines in the same network, traffic is routed through Microsoft private network only. Now, I've had people come to me and say, I don't really understand Microsoft's network. We need to keep our environment safe. I don't understand how we're supposed to be doing, virtual networking and things of that nature. They just don't get it. One thing I want to tell you is that a lot of people, if don't have understanding of it, you're a little scared because you're thinking about breaches. The way Microsoft is working is they're doing everything within the private network only. So let's go take a step back to traditional networks. Within a traditional network, if you have one site, site A, and another site, site B, if you need to have them communicate with each other, you need to have your ISP set you up a public static IP address. Now then, with that public static IP address, you enter that information into the firewall so that this way that information can communicate with the other side. So let's just say if it's another company, or you might have different sites. So you might have remote sites, right? So let's just say you're a college campus and you have a college campus in, I don't know, Texas, and you have another college campus in Connecticut. What you would do in order for them to communicate with each other is have those same public IP addresses so you can speak. That's public facing. Even though you're still going to keep it secure by having passwords and such, you're still going to have it public facing. What this is saying is, hey, with the virtual network pairing, it's using Microsoft's private network only. So now your internal IP addresses can communicate with each other once you set up that VNet pairing within Microsoft. So what I want to talk about a little bit is the two types of network pairing. So there is the virtual network pairing, which I would like to say is pretty much regional pairing, which connects virtual networks within the same Azure region. Then there's the global virtual network pairing, which is connecting virtual networks across regions. So let's say you have a virtual network in NYC, and then you have a virtual network in London. This would be something called a global network pairing. Now, what we have here is obviously two separate networks, and these resources cannot talk to each other. Now, let's say that they're in the same Azure subscription. So both of these networks are owned by company ABC. Do you think that they can speak to each other? What I'm going to tell you is absolutely not. By default, Azure is designed to lock down first, then allow the customer to permit that access. So VNet in NYC will not be able to communicate with the VNet in London unless we now introduce the virtual network pairing, which this one in this case would be a global VNet pairing. And that's the way you would establish that communication, so that this way the virtual machines will communicate with the other virtual machines, or let's just say if it's a domain controller, or it doesn't really matter, you can have your resources communicate with each other. Now, keep in mind, as we said before, this is not public facing. This is all happening on Azure's backbone. So you have your internal IPs communicating with each other without even doing any public static IP address. Okay, so now let's look at this diagram that we have here in this deck. So we have subnet A, subnet B, and subnet C. They're all on their own virtual network. Now, if you notice, subnet A and subnet B speak with each other, and then also subnet C and subnet B speak with each other. There is a VNet pairing between those two networks, right? So we have 10.2 speaks with 10.4 and 10.2 speaks with 10.1, but 10.1 doesn't speak with 10.4. And that's what I want to let you know, that is explicit. When you want to allow a connection or resources to speak with each other, you have to define that with your virtual networks. So two things I want to also point out to you is in the bottom right hand corner there is communicate using private IPs, which is extremely secure. that you're using the private IPs and you're not going public with this at all. And then another thing I want to stress to you is this does not change how you would normally do your VNet tunnels, right? Your virtual private networks. So you may have to make sure that there's no overlap in IP addresses. So before you go ahead and say, okay, let these VPCs speak with each other, make sure that the internal IPs are not overlapping, because then you're going to run into a very big problem. All right, so let's talk a little bit about benefits of VNet peering. So one is low latency, high bandwidth connection between resources in different virtual networks. Another one is the ability for resources in one virtual network to communicate with resources in a different virtual network. The ability to transfer data between virtual networks across Azure subscriptions definitely helps you out there. And then the ability to pair virtual networks using the resource manager. Plus, you also have the classic deployment module as well that you can utilize, but most people aren't really going through that fashion anymore. And then finally is the no downtime. This is really essential, right? You want to make sure that you're still operating not still, but you're able to operate at all the time, right? So being able to this not have to worry about downtime is really helpful. Where you're setting this up, you just kind of a click of a button, you to tell exactly where you want it to go and the resources to communicate with each other, and then that's pretty much it. It's really simple. So what I want to do is end off there. I wanted to just kind of give you a little quick introduction to virtual network pairing. I'm pretty sure that's why you clicked on this video. You're really curious about how this works. But I want you to take that curiosity a little step further. I have a video of how to set up your virtual network pairing. I'll show you exactly how to do that and get your hands dirty. So what I want to do is say thank you for taking the time and providing me your time to look at one of my videos. If you haven't done so already, please smash that like and subscribe button. Here at Cloud Scholars, my goal is always to get you from scholar to consultant and from consultant to expert. Thank you, and see you next time.